The best high-ticket closers know that there are 3 main types of buyers on sales calls. They deeply understand each of them, how to speak their language, what makes them tick, and ultimately where to take the conversation depending on the type of person that you're speaking to. And the reps that struggle the most try to sell to everyone the exact fucking same. Today, we're going to talk about who these buyers are, what they look and sound like, and more importantly, how to close these fuckers. Before understanding these 3 types of buyers, I used to spin my wheels. I used to try to sell to everybody the exact same. I would try to sell to a millionaire the same way I would sell to a corporate drone. I'd sell to a corporate drone the same way I'd sell to a single mom, the same way I'd sell to a 19-year-old ambitious kid. And I had a process that worked, but I didn't know how to mold it to different types of people. And so I was losing deals that I ultimately should not have been losing. And in hindsight, it's fucking retarded because why would I try to sell to everybody the same, right? It was pretty common sense, but it wasn't that common to me. And after reviewing over 100 calls, hundreds of calls, I'm learning that it's not very common to most other reps either. And I know that a lot of you deal with the exact same shit, so let's get you right. Now, you're probably wondering, who is this guy barking at the fucking camera? And what does he know about sales? My name is Nick, and I've closed $3 million in high ticket sales because of my fundamental understanding of human psychology and buyer's behavior. It wasn't because I had the fanciest word tracks. It wasn't because I had the most dialed in objection handling. All those things played a part, but what really moved the needle for me is understanding people and understanding how people make decisions and how different each type of person is. Guys, I'm no psychologist. I fucking dropped out, but I got obsessed with human behavior, and I was able to take that and apply it to sales and learn, how do these things lead to a buying decision? And how can I make that person feel like it is their decision to move forward and they're not just doing it because I beat them down? Because at the end of the day, it is their fucking decision. And through learning these things, I've been able to turn it into a replicable system that's been able to help countless others, close to 100 other reps, like Knight here, who went from $4 grand a month to 21 grand a month with his fitness offer. Or we have Chris, who became the top rep on his offer after only being in sales for 4 months on his first month on that offer, dethroning the guy who had been top rep for 14 months. This is after learning a lot of what I'm about to teach you here. Or we have Colton, who became the top rep on his offer after taking the least amount of calls, and the dude behind him had taken like 15 more calls. So if you don't want to piece together a bunch of YouTube videos and you want to get similar results like this, hit the link below, apply for advanced coaching with me. Now, a big reason that I'm able to help a lot of my clients get the results that they get is because they're working directly with me. Now, I obviously don't have infinite amount of time, and so I can't work with all you fuckers. I take on 5 additional new clients a month, and you have to already be on an offer. Do you hit the link below? Let's dive in. So one thing I want to make very clear before we talk about these 3 types of buyers is I in no way, with a lot of the things I say, I'm not the person who made any of this shit up. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars investing into myself with a bunch of different mentors, some good, some not. I've taken a lot from a lot of different people, and I've been able to make it my own, and I've been able to take what I've learned and kind of cherry pick what works the best versus what doesn't. There's a lot of shitty training out there, okay? And so this concept that we're about to talk about right here of the 3 buyers, I didn't make the shit up. I learned this particular concept from an angry Irish gentleman named Bill Walsh. He's a fucking dog. And after learning this and being able to put my twist to it, this fundamentally helped change how I view sales calls and ultimately how I communicate with each of the prospects. So with that said, let's dive in. Now, the first type of buyer, we're gonna call this dude buyer 1, okay? Buyer 1 is arguably one of the easiest people to sell to because their pain is so clear. And so before we talk about how to sell them, who actually are they? They're typically 18 to 25 years old. They're typically either a man or a stay-at-home woman. They're typically pretty low earners. This is going to be their first time making a significant investment into themselves. They had this massive chip on their shoulder. They don't have the most confidence. They feel like life owes them something. If you sell BizOp, you're going to get a lot of these types of people, especially if you sell BizOp to a younger avatar. They live at home and they typically desire nice things. They probably have a screensaver with like Lambos and Rolexes and shit, right? These are the people who probably follow like Iman Gaji. They probably love breast scales. They have dreams of these big houses and these cars and these watches. These are very ambitious people, okay? This is exactly who I was when I was a dishwasher. The second group of buyers, buyer 2, these are going to be some of the they're going to be a little tougher to sell to, but these are going to be the majority of your prospects, and being able to get across to them, get across to bucket 2 and bucket 3, this is what's going to make you an elite sales rep. So these guys are typically anywhere from like 25 to 35, and according to society, they're successful. That's why these are some more difficult people to sell to. They have nice shit. Maybe they own a home. Maybe they have rent on a pretty nice place paying anywhere from like 3 to 5 grand a month. They probably have anywhere from 1 to 3 kids. Think corporate professionals. These are people who have very respectable careers. So corporate, some higher level people who are higher level in like construction who make pretty good money. They're largely going to be white collar, and they make anywhere from like 80, 90 grand up to like 150, 200 grand a year. Whereas the bucket one people, they make most of the time less than 50 grand a year. Now, the way the bucket one people have a chip on their shoulder and they feel like life owes them something and they want the big houses and the watches and the cars, these people they know that according to society they've made it and they're doing well, but internally they feel like something's missing. They know that there's more to life than this. They keep getting bitched out by their boss. They have to live on this very tight, strict budget in order to do anything, right? They probably fly economy. They're probably 1 to 2 missed paychecks away from being a bucket one. The thing that these people desire the most is to live life on their own terms. That's really, really important to them, because despite the decent income, despite the decent shit that they have, they still don't own their time, and they still have to answer to a boss every single day, and their income is not bulletproof because they don't own it, and they know that. These are the type of people who maybe they listen to like Hormozy, maybe they listen to like Cody Sanchez, and like the entrepreneurs who are a little higher level than like, you know, the younger guys who just flash Lambos and shit all day. These people, in addition to bucket one, they struggle to take action. This is really key to understand. Then we have buyer number 3. Buyer number 3, these are people who are actually fucking successful. They're usually 35 plus. They're typically either a male or they're a high alpha female. A lot of times they'll own multiple homes in like different places. They make actual good money, so anywhere from 500 grand to like $1 million plus a year, and they have a track record of doing that multiple years back to back. These people probably have anywhere from 500 grand to like $1 million liquid in the bank. They're probably rocking APs, they're probably rocking day dates, may even throw a paddock on. They have massive egos. They're probably running a large company or multiple companies, or they're a C-suite executive. And for these people, they dream about being that guy. Ego really controls and leads them a lot, and it's important to know this, right? The things that are important to them is their ego and time. Time is really fucking important, and this is going to be important in knowing how to sell to them. More money is important to them, but more efficiency is the most important thing. So how do you actually sell to them? So the way you're going to sell to the first type, again, this is arguably going to be one of the easier ones to sell to because they're already swimming in pain, right? They're already, again, this was me when I was a dishwasher, right? These people have a ton of present financial pain. Most of the time, these people can barely afford to do anything outside of just paying their bills. The reason that a lot of these people are easier to sell to is because a lot of this shit is just like common sense, right? Like if you're struggling to sell to them, then the bucket 2s and 3s are going to be a fucking roller coaster for you. Like it's one thing to work a lot but be able to make ends meet and live a decent life, but when you're working a lot and you can't make ends meet, it's a double fucking whammy, because that's a really rough place to be, right? And since they're either young men or they're stay-at-home ladies, the thing that they crave the most is independence and escaping the matrix, right? They're aware of, I need to get out of this fucking matrix. The stay-at-home woman knows that she doesn't need to work, but she doesn't like being very financially dependent on her man. She wishes that she can have some type of her money, right? And she, you know, strives for, if something were to go wrong, that I can be able to help out, that I can be able to put up. And they'd like to have some type of financial autonomy outside of like what their man gives them, right? And the men in this position, they wish that they can move out of their parents' crib. They wish that they can help their parents out. Maybe their parents aren't doing that well, or maybe their parents are fairly successful and they want to be able to do it on their own, right? With this chip on their shoulder, they know that they are so much better than these bottom of the barrel job that they've been working. And so what do you want to do with these people? You want to unpack their financial pain, right? They're going to say things like, yeah, being able to like just do more, right? Being able to do more, not be check to check. That's the type of language that they'll use, not be check to check. And so you want to understand, what are they not able to do as a result of their income? What kinds of things are they missing out on? You want to go layers deep here. Okay, what else? Again, when you think about this type of person who makes less than 50 grand a year, I want you to think really deeply about that kind of a life, okay? These people are probably at the grocery store counting up the bill in their head or on their calculator to make sure that they have enough when they get to the end. These people are, maybe they're behind on their bills, maybe they're behind on their car payments, right? It's okay to get fairly emotional with them, like understanding, okay, and like how does that make you feel though? Like being in this place where we're working, another thing is they probably work a fuck ton but make a couple grand a month. So you want to understand that too, how many hours they're working. And you can create a crazy case for them, because how does it feel to be working X amount of hours and still not be able to have the money to do X, Y, and Z? How does that make you feel? When you ask the how do you feel question, you always want to have context with it. So you want to get as much context about how fucked they are. And for the most part, it's going to be on a silver platter. And if they're young and let's say they're in college or something, okay, well, why not like kind of continue going down that path and down that route and just like get a secure job, right? If they're working these bottom barrel jobs, you want to understand, okay, I mean, you can just like work more hours and be able to make more money that way. Maybe be the manager at the place that you're working at. The key with really all these fuckers is you want to get as specific as possible. You're going to slow it down a little bit with them. You need them to feel as heard as possible, right? Then we have buyer 2. How do you sell to the buyer 2 people now? Now, these are the tougher ones, especially compared to bucket 1, like I said earlier, or buyer 1. They're slightly smarter, but like they're still retarded. Like rather than driving an old beat up Honda, they're probably driving like a newer Lexus, right? Remember, these people make anywhere from 80 to like 150, 200 grand a year. And so they think they've made it. And so the thing about these people is the pain isn't going to be blatantly obvious the way it is with the first group of people. The main thing here, because they can make more, they can make even 300-400 grand a year. Thing about these people is they don't own their time and they're capped in their income. Those are going to be the biggest levers to pull with these types of buyers. And something that you have to remember is that the majority of society falls under bucket 1. And so that's why bucket 2 people, they feel like they made it, or people are telling them that they've made it, or compared to what they're seeing around, it's like, well, fuck, I can pay my bills. I do have this nice car, but I feel like I'm not hitting that potential. That's the thing with these people. And so it's important to listen very closely to language, because a lot of times they're probably going to try to hold back. And they don't even do this intentionally, but they're going to try to hold back on how fucked their situation actually is. And so this is where, through our questioning, we're going to find out specifically what's going on. And again, it comes to listening to language. So with buyer 1 and 2, I always like to start backwards and start with the goal in mind, right? Start with the outcome in mind. And I'll ask them, okay, what's the ultimate goal for you when it comes to doing something like starting an Amazon FBA store? And what you're listening for when I say language is they are going to tell you what they don't have. If you're asking them their goal, they obviously don't have their goal. So they're going to say something along the lines of more time, more money, more freedom. Now they're probably going to downplay it, which is why it's key to listen to language. Like, yeah, just make more money. Yeah, just have more time, right? They're gonna use that kind of a tone too. And the way the other people, the first group of people, they have a lot of present pain and a lot of future pain, right? Of not wanting, like I said, the college guy, not wanting to be, the corporate person, or not wanting to go and fall into the management role at the fucking McDonald's, right? You're going to want to focus on the present. That's going to be huge for the second group. They'll try to tell you shit like I said earlier, like, oh yeah, just make more money. Oh, who doesn't want to make more money? Or they're going to say shit like, oh yeah, I want to like put away more for my kids' college. Okay, but your kids aren't going to college for 10 fucking years, Mr. Prospect, right? We want to talk about that now. Okay, so a couple different ways to go about it is, okay, and like, what are you seeing right now that makes you feel like you could use more money? Okay, and like, besides just like wanting more, what specifically are you seeing that makes you feel like more money could help? Okay, and I can respect that. How old is your kid? Okay, your kid's 8 years old. So it sounds like college is more of like a down the road thing, right? Okay, and so if we look at it like right now, when we talk about more money, like what areas do you think more money would be able to help with in the present? Specific present pain. Drill that in your fucking head. You want to find out, what does their current income restrict? And a fire analogy that I like to use with these people is I'll be like, Mr. Prospect, you're in a little bit of a dangerous place. Right? Because you're in the middle. You're not exactly the guy who's flipping burgers, whose life is fucking miserable, who makes $12 an hour, but you're also not the guy who can up and leave and take a trip whenever he wants to, who can stay in the nicer hotels, who can fly first class whenever. We're like right in between. And the dangerous part about this is exactly where most people stay, right? This is how you're going to help them see that. And I've been a bucket too as well. This is back when I was a marketing manager at some of the biggest agencies in the world. This was me. I was making like 90 grand a year. I was working from home. according to the rest of society, it's like you damn near make 6 figures, you're 22, you work from home, like you've made it. Why would you want anything different? Just stay where you are, and then in a couple years, you're gonna make multiple 6 figures. Fuck that. I knew I was better than that. And then they also, like I said earlier, they don't have time freedom, which is really important to unpack when it comes to selling to them. Okay, Mr. Prospect, and I know a little earlier you said that more time is important. I'm curious, like, what made you say that one? Why more time? Get specific. Oh, okay. How many hours are you working right now? Okay, and working 50, 60, 70 hours, like, what does that get in the way of for you? Right now we can talk about what they're not able to do maybe with their kids, what they're not able to do for themselves, what they're not able to do with their spouse. How does that make them feel as a dad, as a mom? How does that make them feel as a husband or a wife, right? So not only are you working the X amount of hours and commuting all the time, and you're not able to make the kids games, right? You're not able to do this financially. It's restricting X, Y, and Z. You feel like you're not hitting your full potential, right? You're not able to live the life that you want to live in addition to trading all these hours for your time. Remember, these people like to mentally masturbate themselves with like the Tony Robbins, Alex Hormozy type of content. And so they know all the buzzwords of like, yeah, you'll never get rich trading your time for money. And you want to lean into that. You want to see what they're missing out on time and financially. That's going to be the kill shot for these people. And then we have buyer number 3. Buyer number 3 is going to be people who are actually successful, like we spoke about earlier. Now, the thing about successful people is they value, like I said, their ego, and they value time, okay? And so these people, this is going to be a strictly logical sale, meaning you're not going to ask how does that make you feel like personally though? You're not going to ask shit like that with these types of people. Remember, they're making anywhere from $500 to $1 million, $2, $3 million a year. Probably have $500 to $1 million in the bank. Something else to understand about them is they are sharks, and they're used to being in control, and they are insecure when they are not in control. And so in order for them to give control up to you, they have to feel safe. They have to feel like this is a competent person who can actually lead this conversation. Otherwise, they're gonna snatch that shit and ask, what do you guys do? How much does this cost? Like, I'm a straight shooter. Like, let's just get to the point here. If they don't feel like the questions you're asking make sense, right? A good way to think about it is like, let's say you have 2 different friends, right? And just like, think about this, because you probably do have these 2 friends. You have friend 1 who you spend time with them, maybe you guys link, and it feels like time is flying, right? You feel like you're getting smarter as a result of spending time with them. You look up, it's already been an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you're like, fuck, man, we've been hanging out for that long, like, holy shit, right? And it feels like you are progressing as a result of spending time with them. But then you have this second friend who you could have been with them for 30 minutes, an hour, and internally it feels like you're kind of wasting time. You're thinking about all the shit that you have to do. You're not very present in the moment. You don't feel like you're getting smarter. And so when this type of a buyer tries to take control from you, it's because they feel like they're hanging out with the second group of friends right there. Right? You never want to be that person. So every question has to make sense and has to be relevant towards the problem that they're here to solve. Not gonna lie, these guys typically take a little longer to learn how to sell to, but they will make you elite and bulletproof once you can really learn how to shank these motherfuckers. Once you can crack them, you can crack anyone. Because you don't really need to do this big emotional dance, right? They know they have a problem that they're here to solve. They want to know that you can solve that fucking problem. And so your questions have to be sharp and concise. Remember, they don't like wasting time. So the ego part is them feeling safe, right? That this is someone who can actually lead the conversation here, knowing that you're sharp, and then getting to the point, right? Not asking a question and then over explaining the shit. That's going to turn them off because they feel like we're wasting time. And so downward inflection is going to be really important, exactly how I'm speaking right now. Okay, I'm like, what would you say is the biggest challenge if you're dealing with XYZ or open we can help on? Okay, when you say this, tell me more, right? Like, you have to be sharp, where you have to be fast with these types of people. You need to quickly figure out their problem and then cook them logically, okay? So like, let's say you sell trading algorithms. You need to then turn into an investment doctor, and you are there to diagnose their problem. You need to figure out, what does their portfolio look like? Where are they putting their money into, right? What's preventing them from making more? Like, why not just dump more into the market? Are they consistently profitable? You see how we're not talking about any emotional shit here. Maybe, again, if you're selling algorithms, maybe they are profitable, but they're spending a bunch of time managing it. Remember what I said, time is really important to them, right? They're spending a bunch of time and mental energy managing their portfolios. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what that time takes away from. Maybe it takes away from their main business. Like, every point of this conversation, it has to be leading to their problem and why their problem, like, logically basically why they're in the situation that they're in and what are they looking to solve. You're not going to make these people cry on the call. Buyer 1 and 2, you can maybe make them cry on the call if you're saucy, but not 3. Like, I'll give an example here, a couple examples. So when I used to sell e-com, like an e-com offer, drop shipping offer, I had a guy who was making about $3 million a year, and he felt like so there was a couple things that were happening with him. One is he felt like he was falling behind because his business was in agriculture and he had nothing going on online, and he saw the writing on the wall of his business, and things were starting to, like, his business wasn't slowing down, but the industry was starting to slow down, and he knew he needed to get into something else quick. In addition to him feeling like he's falling behind, he sees all these young fuckers making all this money while working half the time as him, who were half as smart as him, right? So it was about efficiency. How can I, first of all, not fuck myself financially and get ahead of the curve? How can I not miss the mark when it comes to this online stuff? And how can I make the same or more of what I'm making now without having to work as hard as I am, right? Another thing with this dude is that he made about $3 million a year, but he would do big contracts. And so 30% of his earnings came from one company. It was $1 million a year contract that he had. And so he was constantly anxious of, like, if I lose this contract right here and I don't make up this additional $1 million a year, close to that $1 million a year, then I'm fucked, right? Because that's a fucking third of my income gone. I didn't make this dude cry. Did he buy? Of course he bought, right? This was a result of me understanding why not double down on his current business. Why even look elsewhere? That's where I got all that information, and I got this gentleman's respect. When I used to sell to doctors, the first thing that we would talk about on that call is I used to the program that I sold helped them get better at charting and get more efficient with that. And so the emotional problem with charting is that they're not able to spend the time with their family and all this shit, right? But I would first start, before getting there, I'd start with, okay, right now, like, what's your approach to charting? Are you able to do it with the patient in the room? Because the reasons that they were drowning in these charts is because they had a lot of perfectionism. They didn't do it with the patient in the room, and then they'd overextend themselves to the patient. Those were the main 3 reasons why they were on the fucking call in the first place. And so that's what they're here to talk about in their mind. And so rather than going straight for the throat emotionally, I would start talking about that stuff, right? And then they would clearly see that, fuck, this is where I'm falling short. I'd put the logical problem on a platter for them. Now, if for some reason they try to take control, you cannot allow that. You have to snatch that shit back immediately. And you have to do it in a way that doesn't bruise their ego. So how do you do that? You want to do it, and you also want to keep your frame, right? So you want to justify the question that you're asking, but again, while keeping frame. So let's say there was a lady, like, on the doctor offer where I'd be, I'm talking about, like, what's her approach to charting, and she'd be like, none of this really matters. Like, I just want to know, like, what you guys do. I'd be like, it does matter, because in order to see if what we're doing here with the help with charting would help you, I have to see what you're doing now, because there's a chance that you're probably already doing what we're doing, and if that's the case, then this may not make sense for you. I justify, and then she was like, okay, I'll trust your lead, and then we continued going, and of course she bought, right? I didn't let her take my frame, but at the same time, I didn't turn into it didn't turn into an ego battle either. I justified why I'm asking the question. I kept going, right? I gained her respect. So if you made it this far, you now know the 3 different types of buyers, exactly how you're going to sell to these types of buyers, what makes them tick, what to listen for, and ultimately how to get them to the end. And again, 2 and 3 are going to be the most important to master depending on what you sell. Now, obviously, if you sell a fucking offer that you speak to a bunch of 19-year-olds, then obviously getting good at number 1 is going to be important. But most of you, I'm willing to bet, sell to the buyer 2 or 3. So that's going to be key for you. And that's ultimately going to help you be an elite level salesperson anyway. So if you got value from this, comment down below which of those 3 avatars you see the most. I'm actually really curious to know. So just comment buyer 1, buyer 2, or buyer 3. And whatever I see coming up the most consistently, maybe I'll do a live call breakdown of me handling that exact avatar type. So again, if you want to be one of the 5 people that I take on every month and work with me directly for advanced one-on-one coaching, hit the link below, see if you qualify. And as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.